Welcome to today's deep dive. I'm incredibly glad you're joining us for this one.
Yeah, it's a really important one.
It is because we are unpacking a topic that is universally relevant. I mean, completely inevitable for half the population, yet somehow it's still shrouded in all this mystery.
Right. Whispered conversations and
Exactly.
myths.
Whispered conversations and just a lot of frustrating misinformation. We are laying out the complete four-stage journey of menopause.
And honestly, calling it a four-stage journey right out of the gate is already a major paradigm shift.
Yeah.
Because for generations, the standard advice given to you has basically been to, well, just wait and see, or to just deal with the symptoms when they finally show up and disrupt your life.
And the mission of our deep dive today is to completely obliterate that wait-and-see approach. We're looking at a comprehensive roadmap for this transition from our source material today, and there's a core truth right at the beginning of the research that, honestly, it completely blew my mind.
It's the big aha moment.
Yes. Here is the big aha hook. Menopause does not suddenly start the day your period ends.
Right.
The hormonal changes actually begin years, sometimes a full decade prior to that event.
Which completely disrupts the traditional narrative.
Yeah.
We want to use early education to empower you. Understanding these four distinct stages, it provides clarity, it builds confidence, and most importantly, it cultivates compassion for yourself.
I love that.
Yeah, it takes what is often treated as this overwhelming, terrifying physical decline and turns it into a navigated, intentional transition.
Intentional transition. That's such a great phrasing. And I want to set the stage right now by saying that this information is crucial for you, whether you're in your 30s, your 40s, your 50s, or well beyond.
Absolutely.
Even if you think this is decades away, or if you feel like you are currently drowning in the thick of it, this roadmap is for you.
Okay, let's unpack this by starting at the very beginning of the timeline, which is premenopause. It's the logical starting point, but it's also the stage that is least talked about in the medical community when we discuss menopause. Premenopause typically occurs in your 20s and early 30s.
Okay.
And at this point, your cycles are generally regular, you aren't noticing any consistent changes, everything feels completely status quo.
Wait, if my cycles are completely normal and I feel fine in my 20s, why do medical experts even classify that as part of the menopause journey? Isn't that just, life?
I mean, you'd think so. But what's fascinating here is that even though everything feels normal, this is actually the most crucial time to establish a baseline. It is all about observation.
Observation.
Right. You aren't looking for things to be wrong. You are simply taking notes on what it looks like when your hormonal system is functioning in its typical rhythm.
In theory, that sounds great. But speaking practically, how do you establish a baseline when your 20s and early 30s are usually the most chaotic, stressful years of your life?
Oh, without a doubt.
You might be starting a career, maybe having kids, navigating relationships. How do you know if you're tired from hormones or just tired from life?
That is the ultimate challenge. And it's exactly why you have to pay close attention to what is uniquely normal for your specific body. What is your baseline mood when you actually get 8 hours of sleep?
Right.
What are the natural rhythms of your cycle when you aren't completely burnt out? You want to notice patterns rather than ignoring your body. We are so conditioned by hustle culture to just push through our days.
Masking it all with coffee.
Exactly. Masking minor shifts in our energy with caffeine or adrenaline. But taking the time to observe these patterns gives you a vital point of comparison for later.
It's like taking a meticulous inventory of your house before a storm hits. You need to know exactly where everything belongs so you know what has shifted when the wind blows through.
That's a perfect analogy.
And aside from just observing, this premenopause stage is the absolute best time to start building foundational physical resilience. We are talking about sleep hygiene, nutrition, and movement.
Yes, getting those habits dialed in.
Building muscle mass and solid routines in your late 20s and early 30s, it creates this shock absorber effect for your body that will support you profoundly as you move into the next phase.
Precisely. If premenopause is about mapping the territory and packing your gear, the next stage is where the weather actually starts to change. And that brings us to perimenopause.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Perimenopause is the transition zone. And the research points out that this is the stage that absolutely catches you off guard. It carries this massive element of surprise.
For a few very specific reasons. First, perimenopause is not a quick phase. It can last anywhere from 4 to 10 years.
Wow, 10 years.
Yeah, up to a decade.
Yeah.
And second, it often starts much earlier than you might expect. Because society doesn't teach us the difference between perimenopause and menopause, you might start experiencing strange symptoms in your late 30s or early 40s.
And you immediately think, well, I'm too young for menopause, so I must be going crazy.
Exactly, or that something else is seriously wrong with you.
Let's get into what those symptoms actually look like, because it is not just a skipped period here and there. It starts with irregular cycles. Your periods might become shorter, they might get longer, heavier, or much lighter. It becomes entirely unpredictable.
And that unpredictability is just the tip of the iceberg. Because estrogen and progesterone receptors are located all over your body, not just in your reproductive system.
Right, they're everywhere.
They're in your brain, your bones, your skin, your cardiovascular system. When those hormones start to fluctuate, the whole system feels it.
The sleep disruptions are a major one. I want to talk about that classic scenario. Waking up at 3 a.m., staring at the ceiling, feeling completely wide awake and maybe a little panic with absolutely no idea why.
It's not just random insomnia. As progesterone, which is basically your brain's natural, relaxing, soothing hormone, as that starts to drop and spike unpredictably, your brain loses its chemical sleep aid. Combine that with a sudden drop in estrogen, which can trigger a spike in adrenaline, and boom, your body literally jolts you awake at 3 a.m., thinking there's an imminent threat, like a tiger in the room.
That biological explanation makes so much sense. It takes the mystery away. You aren't stressed about your inbox. Your brain just got a chemical false alarm.
Exactly.
And speaking of false alarms, let's talk about the temperature changes. You might hear doctors call these vasomotor symptoms, which is just a fancy medical term for when your body's internal thermostat goes completely haywire.
Causing the intense hot flashes and night sweats.
Yes.
Your hypothalamus is the part of your brain that regulates body temperature. When estrogen levels become erratic, the hypothalamus gets confused. It suddenly thinks you are dangerously overheating.
Even if you're not.
Right, so it triggers a massive dilation of blood vessels and a flood of sweat to cool you down, even if you are standing in a freezing room.
Then there are the cognitive changes, the brain fog. The research highlights a huge cognitive shift here. It's that exact moment you walk into a room and completely blank on why you're there.
Or you literally cannot recall a word you use every day.
Yes, which is so frustrating.
But again, it has a biological basis.
Mm-hmm.
Estrogen helps with glucose metabolism in the brain. It's essentially helping your brain use its fuel.
So when estrogen drops,
your brain experiences a temporary energy crisis. It is adapting to a new environment. It is not early onset dementia. It is a neurological remodeling process.
neurological remodeling, wow. And on top of the sleep, the temperature and the brain fog, there are the bodily changes. You might notice weight redistribution happening, particularly around the midsection, along with noticeable shifts in libido.
Which is very common.
When you stack all of that together, day after day, year after year, it is completely understandable why you might feel alienated from your own body.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, this is where the profound validation of this roadmap comes in. You are not crazy. You are not failing at life. These symptoms, as frustrating and exhausting as they are simply your body's way of adapting to a profound biological transition.
So, if you are currently in this unpredictable transition zone, how do you take control?
Education becomes your superpower. When you know what is happening biologically, you can act strategically. First, you start tracking those symptoms. Remember that baseline you established in premenopause?
Right, the observation phase.
Now you compare. Are the 3 a.m. wake-ups happening right before your period? Is the brain fag worse on certain days? Second, you implement targeted lifestyle changes. This is where you have to lean heavily into stress management, optimizing your protein intake, and becoming rigidly disciplined about your sleep routines.
And it isn't something you have to do in isolation. You have to open up to your partner about what you're going through, and you need to have very transparent, honest conversations with your healthcare provider. You do not just have to grit your teeth and bear it. There are medical interventions like hormone replacement therapy or non-hormonal options that can radically improve your quality of life during this phase.
Which prepares you for the next major phase. You've mapped the territory, you've navigated the stormy transition zone of perimenopause, and now you arrive at the milestone itself, menopause.
And here is where we need to completely redefine the term. Because there is a massive cultural misconception out there. Most people use the word menopause to describe the whole multi-year, sweaty, irritable journey we just talked about.
Right.
But technically, according to the medical definition, menopause is just a single point in time.
That distinction is vital. Menopause officially occurs only when you have gone 12 consecutive months without a menstrual period, assuming there is no other underlying medical cause.
12 months.
It is an anniversary on the calendar. That's it. If you go 11 months without a period and then you bleed, the clock completely resets to 0. You are still in perimenopause.
The clock resets. That is wild. Just a point on the calendar. But reaching that milestone brings up a really complex duality of emotions.
Analyzing that psychological impact is critical. Reaching this 12-month mark is a profound dichotomy. For some, it brings an immense wave of relief.
Oh, I'm sure.
There are no more tampons, no more agonizing cramps, no more surprise cycles ruining a white dress or a beach vacation. It is pure freedom.
Yeah.
But for others, it triggers a very real, very valid sense of grief. It signals the definitive biological end of fertility. And even if you never wanted children or you are completely happy with the family you have, closing that biological door can cause a profound shift in how you view your identity and your youth.
It's a huge psychological threshold. And physically, just because you hit that magical 12-month mark doesn't mean a fairy godmother waves a wand and all the perimenopause symptoms instantly vanish.
Not at all.
The symptoms can absolutely linger right through this threshold. You might still be dealing with the vasomotor symptoms, the vaginal dryness, the changes in sexual desire, and those ongoing mood shifts.
Which is why we have to view this stage not as an ending, but as a doorway. The roadmap asks some beautiful probing questions that I think anyone approaching this milestone should sit with.
What kind of questions?
It asks you to consider, what does this next chapter look like for you? How do you want to feel in your body moving forward? What specific support do you need right now from medical professionals, from your partner, or from your community?
I love those questions because they pull you out of a passive role and put you right back in the driver's seat. Which takes us into the final stage of the journey, postmenopause. After you cross that 12-month anniversary, you are officially in the postmenopause stage for the rest of your life. It is the new normal.
And in this new normal, your hormones finally settle. The wild, chaotic fluctuations of perimenopause end, and your body establishes a new, lower hormonal baseline.
Okay.
As a result, many of those acute, frustrating symptoms, like the massive hot flashes, might finally ease up. However, because you are now living in a low estrogen environment, new long-term health considerations emerge.
Because of that new baseline, your health priorities have to shift. The focus pivots from managing acute hormonal chaos to maintaining long-term vitality. Let's talk about the biology of that, starting with bone density.
Estrogen is incredibly protective of your bones. It essentially helps regulate the cells that rebuild bone tissue. When estrogen drops permanently in postmenopause, your bones can break down faster than they rebuild.
Which increases the risk for osteoporosis.
Dramatically.
Yeah.
And heart health becomes equally critical. Estrogen helps keep your blood vessels flexible and relaxed. Without it, those vessels can become stiffer, which increases your risk for high blood pressure and cardiovascular disease.
So the stakes are high. But we have a really solid action plan for this future. First, you have to prioritize strength training. We aren't just talking about light cardio or casual walking. We are talking about lifting heavy weights to build and preserve muscle mass.
Because muscle actively pulls on the bone.
Exactly, which signals the bone to stay dense and strong.
Second, be incredibly intentional with your nutrition. Your body doesn't process carbohydrates quite as efficiently in a low estrogen state, so the focus should shift heavily toward hitting high protein targets to support that muscle mass.
Right.
Incorporating healthy fats for brain health, and making sure you're getting plenty of micronutrients like calcium and vitamin D.
You also have to keep up with regular medical screenings. Your risk factors change in postmenopause, so staying on top of preventative care, bone density scans, cholesterol checks, heart monitoring is absolutely non-negotiable.
And importantly, staying socially and emotionally connected is highlighted as being just as vital for your long-term health and cognitive preservation as hitting those daily protein goals. Isolation is a massive health risk in our later decades.
I am so glad you brought up the emotional side, because there is this one concept that I just want to shout from the rooftops. Society often tries to tell you that postmenopause is this slow fade into the background, that you are somehow diminished.
Which is so damaging.
But the reality is the exact opposite. You are not past your prime. This season is where your wisdom, your lived experience, and your deep self-knowledge become your absolute greatest assets.
It is a phenomenal reframing of aging. And it brings us to a crucial part of this deep dive. We have talked extensively about the physical and biological timeline, but we need to look at how this transition impacts the rest of your world.
So what does this all mean for the day-to-day reality of living your life? Because this goes way beyond the physical body. Menopause touches absolutely every facet of how you exist in the world. You often experience a real evolution in your body image and your baseline confidence and even your fundamental sense of what femininity means to you.
Those internal shifts inevitably ripple outward into your relationship dynamics.
Hmm.
This is a remarkably consistent theme in the research. As you navigate this hormonal shift, there are neurological changes that often make you much more direct about your needs.
Yeah.
The drop in estrogen, the hormone that often promotes caretaking and accommodation, means you naturally become far less willing to shrink yourself or to tolerate the nonsense you might have quietly put up with in your 20s or 30s.
It's the I am out of patience for this phase,
Yeah.
and that natural emergence of boundaries prompts some really big questions about what you actually want for the next 10, 20, or 30 years of your life. It can be an incredible period of growth and self-actualization.
But it can also be highly destabilizing for the people around you if they don't understand what is happening, which is why there is a crucial need to bring partners into this journey early on. This isn't a secret you should hide.
Communication is the absolute bedrock here, and
Huh.
it is about sharing the emotional vulnerability, not just giving a clinical report of the symptoms. It is saying, I am feeling incredibly anxious and disconnected from my body today, not just, I had a hot flash.
Right.
It is asking for patience, asking for understanding, and sometimes asking for your partner to just give you more hugs and hold space for you without trying to fix it.
This transition is a highly vulnerable time. And depending on how that communication goes, it can either become a major point of tension and resentment in a relationship, or it can be a beautiful doorway to a much deeper, more authentic connection. It hinges entirely on transparent communication and mutual compassion.
That's beautifully said.
So I want to ask, what stands out to you about how this might reshape your own relationships? Are you bringing your partner into your world, or are you trying to manage it all behind a closed bathroom door?
That is a powerful reflection point. And as we start to pull all of these threads together, we want to leave you with a phenomenal toolkit. 5 practical ways to support yourself, no matter which of the 4 stages you're currently experiencing. Let's really dig into these.
Step 1, track your patterns. Awareness is always your first tool. You need to pay attention to your cycle lengths, your sleep quality, your mood shifts, and your daily energy level.
You cannot manage what you do not measure.
Exactly. And having this data is crucial when you walk into a doctor's office. You aren't just saying, I feel off. You are handing them 3 months of data.
Step 2, build a support team. You don't get a medal for white-knuckling this alone. You need to find a trusted healthcare provider, ideally someone who is certified in menopause care.
Essential.
And just as importantly, you need to surround yourself with supportive friends who get it. You need that group text where you can openly complain about the 3 a.m. wake-ups or laugh about the brain fog.
Step 3, nurture your body. This is the daily maintenance. Hydration, balanced meals, strict sleep hygiene, meaning a cool, dark room and no screens before bed, and movement that actually brings you joy.
Plus, active stress relief.
Yes, active stress relief. That means making actual time for deep breathing, journaling, or gentle stretching to calm your nervous system.
Step 4 is a big one. Advocate for yourself.
This is critical. If something feels off in your body, you are allowed to ask questions. You are allowed to seek second opinions. You must insist on being heard by your medical providers.
Right. If a doctor dismisses your severe symptoms as just a normal part of getting older, you have the right to push back. Tell them to note in your chart that they are refusing to explore treatment options. You are the CEO of your own body.
I love that. Be the CEO.
Yeah.
And finally, step 5, educate early. Even if you are listening to this and you aren't anywhere near perimenopause yet, learning the biology now creates profound clarity for later. You are building your roadmap before you need to drive the car.
It is the ultimate act of preventative care for your future self.
It really is.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to speak directly to anyone listening who might be feeling a little overwhelmed by all of this biology and all of these changes. If you've been listening and thinking, I wish I had known this sooner, I want you to just take a deep breath.
You are not behind.
You are not behind, and you are definitely not broken. You are simply stepping into a new chapter, and chapters come with new tools. The very act of taking the time to listen to this deep dive today is absolute proof that you are actively advocating for your future self.
You are doing the work simply by being here and being open to understanding your own biology.
So here is our call to action for you today. Seek out community. Look for the source's invitations to join menopause workshops. Find those safe spaces where you can ask your questions without judgment. The goal is to navigate every single stage of this journey with wisdom, rather than navigating it blindly through fear.
And I want to leave you with one final provocative thought to mull over as you go about the rest of your day.
Let's hear it.
If education and self-advocacy are our greatest superpowers during this transition, how might our entire society shift if we openly taught the emotional and physical reality of these four stages to everyone, not just women, from a young age?
Wow.
Imagine a world where this transition isn't a secret burden to bear, but a universally understood and celebrated threshold of wisdom.
What an incredible perspective to carry forward. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep asking questions, keep advocating for yourselves, and we will catch you next time.